Aren't it? We're just looking over this stuff.
I am reviewing all the comments. Where do we want to go slide by slide and turn, or do we want to just
That sounds fine to me.
do them
All
over
the slide.
slide? So starting with slide 5.
Well, let me
And
start. I
Tori,
mean,
can you hear us, Tori? Are you? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
yeah. No, I was
Who
just
all is it, who all is in this group? I can only see Colin, and I think I heard Matt's voice.
Devin.
Hi, Devin.
That's it. I was gonna say I asked our faculty and even some staff who was in the meeting their thoughts on local scoring, and I got a 100% absolutely no
Yeah.
response from everyone. No. And so, of course, following up is why? Well, no one is willing or able to take on additional responsibilities of what it takes to be a scorer. Um, we've eliminated any overloads or stipends for things like that. So that's another issue. There's no time. There's no funding or compensation for, the training or the calibration. So they were just, I mean, overwhelmingly, absolutely not. So I don't know how that impacts this recommendation moving forward.
Yeah, well, that's why
That's
I
just
I think well, one, I agree. In sharing this with colleagues, where I am, was not met or was not well received.
Not a pleasant
And
experience.
yeah, and a lot of my colleagues were doing this in the past when we had PACT.
Right.
It was a requirement that all of us had to do a certain. We had to do some, and it varied based on our workloads and things of that nature. But everyone was doing a little bit of scoring. So I definitely understand there's going to be some resistance to doing this, which is why I think the flexibility is particularly important. So that programs can hopefully find something that's, while not ideal, still um, meets the goal of the local scoring, which to me, I don't, I, so I was reading these comments, and I think Mandy was teasing apart maybe two goals for this, and I don't know what other people think about it. It sounds like one goal is to help with program improvement once everyone has a stronger and shared understanding of not only what's expected, but what candidates' submissions look like. It might inform um, uh, what the program does moving forward. But then another goal, it sounds like, is also to have more um, individualized feedback for candidates. Or I don't know if individualized is the right word, but perhaps maybe something that's more meaningful than the standardized feedback that is given currently.
and I think also asking, just speaking with people in the group and reading through some of these comments, everyone has a different interpretation of what local scoring is. And so there's no specific or clear approach as to what this is. I know they have some options listed here, but again, how would that look and what's the purpose point?
So are you proposing we strike this from the
Not proposing that. Well, I mean, no. I'm just trying to brainstorm on how. I don't know. I just have a lot of confusion with this. I mean,
I think my confusion was certainly over the extent to which it's scoring candidates that we teach, not necessarily embedded, because I think that confuses this as well. Because one would assume that anything that's embedded is done by the instructor, that the course that is responsible for the course where it is embedded. If it's truly embedded, it's part of the course, and similar to the other assignments that the instructor would take, which is different to like saying, okay, you're responsible for the assessment piece in your assessment class, Okay, get them ready for a TPA or whatever it is, Cal TPA, get them ready for it, and it's scored by somebody else. Those two things are very distinct, and they seem to be like merged together somehow when it comes to the embedded piece. But I think that there really does need to be a distinction between whether we're scoring our candidates so that we understand the process and that we understand that we actually improve our own practices to assist the students, and because they're valuable practices, we want to do them in a better way. That sort of scoring is very different to actually scoring the candidates that then decide whether they get. So whether it's a PD sort of scoring or whether it's actually the scoring of your candidates gets murky in this to me.
It's murky in this to me too.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it's murky to me too, because I think, and I think this is true. I think Ben maybe was the one that said it in the whole group meeting this morning, but it seems like a lot of these recommendations are trying to do multiple things and achieve multiple goals that we have as a group. Like we want candidates to get individualized feedback. We want programs to use data for candidate data for improvement, so like we're trying to like shove all of these objectives into one recommendation, I think. When I look at our initial charge on page 1, I can screen share too if it's easier. It's a handout 1-1 from September. But under topics of consideration, number 4, it says using local scoring to inform educator preparation program improvement. It doesn't say using local scoring to give feedback to candidates or, whatever else it is.
Yeah, and I honestly, I didn't see this. So I think it was whoever's comment, Mandy or somebody's comment, was helpful for me because I when I read this, I do not think of it as a means to improve candidate feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking at this and I'm thinking maybe more about the programs where candidates are getting little support, if any, at the moment. So this might not be any of our institutions. Maybe they are, I don't know. But for programs that aren't really supporting, something like this would force instructors, supervisors, whoever, to have a better understanding of what exactly is expected of their candidates when they complete the TPA, whatever their TPA is, but also what a passing TPA submission looks like.
See, it's interesting because, like I said, we all have different thoughts in reading this as to what it looks like, because reading this, I'm thinking that as a candidate goes through the process in whatever program courses, we're instructors, we in the program are actually assessing their TPA or scoring, for example, their lesson plan. We give them a score, and that score counts towards their final count or TPA submission score. So when they get their score report, let's say the lesson plan has already been scored by someone in the program. And that should be accepted from the CTC as a final score. That's kind of how I'm reading what local scoring may be, or a component of local scoring. Kind of similar to the FAST, go through the program. Okay, we'll give you a score for your lesson plan rationale, or one of the other documents that you're working on, and that counts for your final score. And then Pearson or whoever is responsible for doing the rest of it.
So that's certainly one of the options that you're noting here. I think that's the second bullet.
I think one of the challenges in figuring out local scoring is we don't know what the assessment will look like. So it's hard to know what local scoring would look like. I don't know if we know that, for instance, there will be a component of the assessment that would be something they're already, if they're doing lesson plans for something that, I don't know if that's going to be a component of the assessment.
But every TPA requires some very similar components. I don't think there's many changes to that. But
the fact that there's flexibility here, I think means that it means that your example is just one of many options, right? So while you're thinking it could be a lesson plan, it could be that another program decides we're going to score 10% of all of our candidates' entire TPAs. So if there's 100 candidates, we're going to choose 10 of them and we're going to score the whole thing. Lesson plan, video, assessment, or whatever is included in there, which may or may not be lesson plans, but it could be the entirety of the TPA. Or it could be the double scoring, which is the final bullet there too. Or it could be 100%, which is another option there too. So I mean, that flexibility is.
And I think that flexibility somewhat complicates this, because then that calls into question, okay, well, how are you gonna go through the training of the calibration training? If you're gonna score the whole 100% of the TPA, then you're definitely gonna have to go through that process, which is gonna cost, as opposed to assessing.
Well, yeah, I don't think I think everyone would be trained no matter what the you'd have to have the full training no matter what option you are doing. And I think that was in other cases too. I don't know where. I don't think it's in this one. I think it might be in I don't know, maybe one of the blue slides. I think they talk about training. Or maybe it's a green slide. I don't know. There is another color slide that talks about required trainings.
What's interesting to me also is that the paragraphs at the top that sort of explain some of the ideas don't mention the program sponsors, the actual EdTPA or CalTPA in this process. It doesn't say and meet reliability standards set by the CTC, and the training would give. So I'm assuming that if we're scoring their actual TPA, not doing it as a PD process, right? It's actually the score they're going to get. Then Pearson and Cal TPA will want to train the scorers and control that, and have the reliability and the validity and all of that, and train them the same as anybody who isn't doing it for their institution. Or Cal TPA.
Right.
But it doesn't actually mention them in that group. I mean, it talks about flexible scoring, meeting criteria, and collaboration, and meeting reliability standards set by the CTC and scorer training. But it doesn't actually mention the.
So yeah, and another kind of, I don't want to say issue that I really have, because I really don't have an issue. In theory, I like the idea, but the programs can already do this.
Yep.
And so, but FAST is the only one that took everyone up on it and followed through with it. So anybody can actually go through the training process. It's, I think, the time and money issue.
It's a big time issue.
Yeah.
And then are these people then, if people do it, are they then paid for scoring by Pearson or Cal TPA?
Well, maybe that still stays true.
Are they paid scorers for them if they're doing this work?
Now it's a second job. I mean, I have colleagues who do this, and they get what I don't know what the going rate is.
$30.
It's like $20.
Beside us.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's more than $20.
Oh no, I'm just.
Oh, yeah.
This is something ridiculous.
I don't
It's
know.
not
You
really
wouldn't have
worth it.
very many scores.
I mean, because
$20.
I think it's like $30 a task or whatever. So $90 for doing one, is it? I don't know.
I went through the process, but like I said, I didn't think it was an ethical approach to learning how to assess. So
That was Red TPA.
Yeah.
The count.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's maybe think of it another way. So this seems to be the aspirin. What's the headache?
People won't do it. I mean, they won't. no one can be required to do this as part of their role if you're in a state school. They can't suddenly add to your job description, you will score whatever, can they? I wouldn't have thought they could.
Well, they would, no,
The institution that you're at, particularly if it's a state institution, can't turn around now and say that part of your role in this in this work is to be trained and score.
No.
So no one can
well,
be.
I mean, yeah, they have to adjust your workload. So if you're a supervisor, maybe you supervise one less candidate in exchange for being trained
Yeah.
and scoring a TPA. But yeah, I mean, to your point, right? We only have a finite amount of work that we can do, and if we add this, then something else has to go.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a cost, because now instead of having 10 supervisors,
Right.
I now need 12 because everybody's having to do some scoring.
Right.
So
I mean, if you're already stretched to find supervisors.
yeah, but particularly supervisors who would be able to score. I mean, there's a difference between a supervisor that's going to watch someone teach and give them feedback, someone who's going to sit down and score huge high of what's being submitted sometimes. That's a very different sort of person.
Go back to your question.
Well, so I mean, I guess I'm hearing you all both say that this is not directly actionable. This is not something that.
Well, I mean,
Tori, what do you think?
I'm very much in favor of a recommendation for a local scoring component. I don't think that it needs to be or should be that programs are scoring entire portfolios. But I do think a part of the assessment is that it should be educative both for candidates and programs. And I don't think a lot of programs are looking at candidate level data anymore. And I think this is a way to there were earlier recommendations along with this about like funding and support for it. And if we're going to have it, I think there needs to be like some sort of centralized support for local scoring, whether it be funding or something else. But I think if we leave, I'm in favor of local scoring. I'm in favor of leaving our recommendation broad enough that a program can figure out how to do it in a way that best works for their program and also allows them to look at the data they want to look at. That's what I think.
Rebuttal?
well, I mean,
So how do we persuade people? Sorry, how would you think that we can persuade? It's relatively easy in my place. I'm trying to think of other places because nearly all of our support people that we have are their supervisors in the field. And it used to be, most of them have been there a long while, and it used to be part of their role to score it when we were doing PACT. And they would see it as something that is acceptable in their role. But I'm thinking about other lecturers and faculty at bigger institutions that aren't as well. And we could find, you're going to get like another $200 on your stipend for doing supervision. We're going to add $200, $300, whatever, and we could do that. That's easy, and they would benefit from it. But I'm worried that isn't applicable in many other places. So whether we like it or not, is it possible? When it's the actual scoring, I think it's possible when we're talking about us organizing it and using it as a PD, which is what we still do, where we often review someone's papers and they all cross it just to understand how better to support them. It's got nothing to do with the score. They do score it, but it's got nothing to do with the score that the student got. People will engage in that because that could be really educative to faculty and lecturers, and they seem to like doing that as well, actually, but not if it's going to determine whether a student gets their credential or not. It's very different.
So are you asking how do we convince people?
Sorry?
You're saying how do we convince people?
Yeah.
I think it's
To add it to their workload.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is this does not seem to be very actionable because of constraints on the workforce. Or maybe that's not
for us to.
not for us to wrestle with, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I forget what we were talking about earlier. I think it was Adam who mentioned something along those lines.
I agree.
Oh, about the condition code or the one of the codes that can it be done in a week's time to identify and resend to the candidate. And currently there's not infrastructure to do that, but Adam was saying that's not really our concern to worry about if there's infrastructure for it. You just put it out there and you can see what the program, or not the program sponsors, but the assessment sponsors can do. I don't know.
What was the feasibility thing on this? What did they say?
This one?
Feasibility of this one.
This one. Well, I mean, we can get rearranged from something that it is. And
I don't know what it is.
the last page, second last page. Creation and adoption of requirement that programs engage. That's feasibility, what they say. Creation and adoption of requirement that programs engage in scoring, revision and adoption of the performance design assessment, design standards, revision and adoption. Each model sponsors TBA. I mean, like I said, I'm in support of something like this, but just the issue I struggle with is that programs can already locally score if they choose to go that route, but they have not. They would opt out of this. So, I mean, I think the option is still out there. Just like I said, how do you convince someone to take this route? Like Matt said, maybe that's not for us to struggle with or worry about at this point.
If it's in a program standard, I mean, that's how they're being convinced is they have to meet standards.
Yeah, I think we're calling and saying, well, that comes at a cost, right? Because now you have somebody who was doing some job is now not doing that because Point TPA has consumed that that time. I don't know.
Bypass and go to the second one.
I thought about that too, but I don't know. I don't want to be attracted to easy. I'll just kick the can because then you end up. I mean, if everyone just kicks the can, then down the road, that's right. Then it ends up.
Sorry, I suddenly can't hear. I can hear you, but you're super muffled. Did something go in front of this?
Sorry, I was just saying.
He was just mumbling.
Yeah, I didn't say anything important. No worries.
It was really him just thinking something through, but verbalizing at the same time. This is not the same. What's on this document isn't the same as
Which document are you referring to?
the one with the feasibility thing.
Oh.
I can't find one that actually replicates this with these suggestions and bullet points.
Is it for this one, looking at this again, would it be better worded instead of include a requirement, but an alternative option or something? The programs engage in method local scoring? Because I know the option is there, the first sentence. Some of that requirement, I know going back to first day and she's talking about the language used and the aggressiveness of it.
Well, That make a difference. Yeah, if you take our requirement, then you keep the status quo, yes. Which is to say, I mean, the programs who find value in it and are constantly looking to improve and refine will probably engage in this, and the programs that are more of a business model will continue to do what they do.
I mean, it could maybe be worded more in a way that, like, there's a minimum requirement within standard program standard 5 or whatever, that, and it's like it's like a recommendation that we had somewhere else, that it is required that faculty, lecturers, and everyone involved in supporting students take part in some form of PD so they understand the scoring and the TPAs as an educative process for the people that are supporting the students. That's a minimum. And that goes, and then there's a continuum that goes all the way up to completely full scoring, which is what they have, which is in the standards, which is there anyway at the moment, that's an option. So it's sort of a graduated thing. Because I don't think that we can require, I think it would be wrong to say to require that everyone has done actual local scoring. But if we see it more as like, okay, this is the minimum that your institution is expected to do, and you be held accountable through accreditation, is actually making sure that everybody who's working with students has a good understanding of the scoring process and has practiced some scoring or whatever, it's part of a performance, and that should happen on a yearly basis or something. And they like it. I mean, whenever I've worked, and we haven't done it, we did it last year, but we hadn't done it for 2 or 3 years, and everyone was really glad that we brought it back and did it. Because with COVID, we stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And they see it as a really, really useful PD to sit around with all the people who are involved with the English language arts students, looking at one of last year's pieces of work and like pretending they were scoring it, and having a debate about whether it was a 2 or a 3, and looking at the video and doing the whole process. And it was a really useful 3 hours, and everyone thought it was one of the best PDs they'd had. So,
and another thing in looking at this one, I'm wondering how this compares with the secondary passing standard option, where, institutions are responsible for somewhat locally scoring that or accepting additional evidence, which is allowed to be considered a passing score on a TPA.
Right. If you're within 3.
Right.
Is there a similar thing for Cal TPA?
That is.
Oh, the Cal TPA is the same. So
the secondary.
Oh, right. The secondary is the same.
So, I mean, so I just approved, I don't know, maybe 4 different candidates who missed it by 1 point.
Yeah.
So they just provide additional evidence. We accept. We make them do a lot more than some institutions do. But then we'll just say, okay, well, yeah, you demonstrated, knowledge and ability to do TPE 1, 2, 3. So this is good. It's considered a pass.
Yeah.
So if we were to go to your continuum idea, the bare minimum would be everyone gets trained.
Everyone gets some form of training and experience of scoring on a yearly basis.
Okay.
As
and
part of
everyone
who's involved. I mean, there's no way that Stanford faculty classes are going to turn up for that, but but everybody who's directly involved in the rather than you know what I mean.
So you're hedging.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Well, the people that really support them.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say
So you're talking like supervisors, method course
supervisors,
instructors?
yeah,
Okay.
P&I, yeah, methods,
Okay.
those people.
Okay.
And I think they would come,
Okay.
right?
So that's the bare minimum, and then on the other extreme, obviously, I'm assuming would be they do the actual scoring themselves too, which training is involved in that. And
Yeah.
they would also do the scoring, and then what's in between?
Just doing it for PD purposes.
No, I think in the middle would be doing just some, doing, I'm going to do, 3 or 4 of our candidates, which makes it much more manageable than doing all 20 if I'm the CNI person for math or whatever. I'm not going to do all 20, but I'll do 3. But then it's still, once you've done the training with Pearson or with GovTPA, then, which is quite onerous. Have you ever done it?
Yeah, it's very
How many
laborious.
hours?
It's 3
20
consecutive
hours.
days. It's
3
like,
days?
yeah. When I did it, it was 3 days. It was a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. It
Yeah.
was 8 hours each day.
Yeah. We've only ever had one person of ours do it, and she's science, and she's amazing, and she's been supported through PACT and everything, and she failed it. She didn't calibrate. Was supposed to go back and do another one. And she said, I'm not doing it again. I did it once because I thought it would be really fun and stuff. And she didn't like what they were doing.
Yeah, I didn't either.
No. So
But the staff suggestion for this one might be helpful. It says perhaps local scoring could be modified to examination of student responses connected to technical assistance, blah, blah, blah. But I wonder if that's just hearing you talk, Colin, a little bit more about it. The power, I think, of local scoring is also getting faculty to talk about the student work and come to shared understandings of how to interpret rubric, like develop a shared language for candidate practice, and then also develop a shared understanding of how to interpret candidate practice with rubric language, right?
yeah.
And so the staff suggestion for revising this might be helpful, a helpful starting place for us.
Where did you get that from?
It's on the on handout 3, 5A-9. So page 9, handout 5A, or I don't know. Says
Handout 3, 5A.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
the feasibility chart.
On page 9.
13.
Okay.
And it's the second row.
Second row.
Yeah, the suggestion is it's not the exact same suggestion,
Right.
but it's really close. It's probably one of the iterations of the suggestion.
Well, that's sort of what I was saying then, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
that what I'm saying?
Is this
Yeah.
the same recommendation? Because
Yeah, why is it there?
In April anyway. Well, no, that is April.
No, someone's put these two together in here, haven't they? Yeah, they've merged this one with the slide that we're looking at. That's the top piece of this. The top piece of this one is on the slide.
But I think that's actually another recommendation.
Oh,
I think they merged 2 recommendations.
oh, right. They merged two, including this one here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Was it Ira who made that suggestion? Do you remember?
No, that was
Okay.
actually.
Oh, that was Adam himself. Oh dear. Well, we better do that then. Now he's much
No,
more
Ira
important.
I did have a chat with Ira. But
Yeah, he said he spoke to you.
yeah, appreciate it.
But I think he would go along with that one as well.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really that they're not scoring for this. They're not scoring whether the candidate gets a credential or not. They're actually just scoring as a process of PD.
so in here,
Development
Yeah,
and
yep,
in the combination of these, they eliminated
Yeah.
Yep.
that
Right.
those specific people. So is that what happened here? Because I'm looking at this one, the page that Tori just referred to, that last recommendation where it lists everyone, cooperating teachers, administrators, district coaches, all these people collaborated. So that's been combined but removed.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're not no longer identifying those.
All of those
All
people
those people.
because it was great. I mean, there's no way I'm going to get a principal to come to a
Well,
TPA scoring
right.
workshop. Well,
So what-
we have some interesting principals that we work with, but most of them are going to be going, I can't do that.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Tori?
I was going to say, what if we kind of combine these three slides that we have around local scoring to say something about program standard 5 be revised to require programs to look at individual, like candidate level responses or something like that using TPA rubrics or
Mhm.
for the purposes of program improvement and to understand.
And candidate support
Yeah.
and future candidate support, and because I mean improvement, that's implied that that the candidates will get better support if they do that, but I think it's worth calling it out. But I think that we could. I think that's a good idea. Is it all three? Is it 3 slides that we?
Mhm. Well, the second recommendation, I think it's already done. You know, the TBU model sponsor provide additional materials to programs, including passing examples. That's already done. I mean, I received those. I don't know if anybody else does. Examples of common condition code issues. I received that. Examples of both successful and non-successful responses.
No, I haven't got
I
that.
don't get that in order to help educators involved in the process or the preparation of initial candidates become familiar with the design. So most of that is done, except that last piece. I don't know if that is needed.
And it could be if we come up with one slide that has a big focus on having institutions get people who are in support involved in understanding. We could also add a statement that and the model sponsors need to support that work with examples, and I mean actually that's in support of the people that are running the sort of workshops in their places, that there's got to be support for those people from the program sponsor. I think you're right though, there already is. There's webinars and all sorts of stuff that's there.
We don't have model. I don't think EdTPA has provided like examples of passing portfolios in each credential area. I haven't seen those.
I haven't seen those either.
So like that, I
You
don't know,
have though.
maybe Cal TPA does it, but I don't know if
You're
EdTPA.
Cal TPA?
Yeah.
Yeah. EdTPA has not sent us. We use our own candidates ones.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah. So that we show them ones that are sort of a borderline. And sometimes some of the PDs we've done it with someone who had a failing score within one task, someone who met the middle mark, and someone who like knocked it out the park. We don't have many of those though, because TPA doesn't have many of those.
It'd be I mean, I do think that would be a helpful component to leave in here, that the model sponsor has to provide these examples, maybe annotated examples or something that I think could be helpful for programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like too the way it is.
Mhm.
Second one,
Mm-hmm.
but also like your idea, Tori, of trying to condense or revise the statement. I don't know what it was you said, but
Maybe it's slide 5 and 7 to condense.
Yeah.
When you say 2, are you talking about slide 6? Sorry.
yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, slide 6. I like the way that one is.
Hey, all right.
Here, I'm gonna add I'll add slide 8 here and we can maybe see if we can combine 5 and 7 together. I'll copy and paste it over. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. And NTPA did used to do that back in the day. And we used to have people come in and would lead. What was it called back then?
The calibration.
Yeah. It was like a calibration thing that they did, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
and-
do TP?
And Nicole Marino used to come and like lead a session with a couple of other people, and but that was when it was so much smaller. I think that could have been just when it was really only California. I don't know. But when it went national, it was. I think it's fine to leave that one.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is no cost to that, right? I mean, that's
They-
the only
they
cost.
have-
Yeah, they have
that
it. They have it. I
information,
mean,
they
it's
just
very
have to
little
package it.
cost to EdTPA or CalTPA to provide some examples
Yeah,
from
they,
previous
yeah, that-
yeah.
You're just one person organizing that stuff.
organizing it
Drop
for
it in
each
folders.
content area, and you know,
I mean, it sounds simple.
yeah,
I'm sure they can find a way to
Well,
come.
right, because the other side of that is just making it available is fine, but then somebody has to do something with it.
Right.
well, that's why
And I guess
yeah.
my fear is that the programs who are gonna do something with it are probably already,
doing something similar.
yeah.
But that's why it has to be that it's in standard 5, that in accreditation you have to show that
Yeah.
you have been training your support, your student support or instructors or whatever you want to call them, all of those people that are involved that are being trained, and it's being reviewed each year, something like that. And most places do in some form, but we didn't for a year or so, what we could have done and should have done. But I feel sure that if it was in the standard, we would have probably made sure that we did do it every year. But it also provides enormous feedback to not just those direct, and our faculty certainly do take notice of the fact that, okay, nearly all of our lower scores were in task 3 to assessment. So who's teaching an assessment course? Happens to be me. But so we need to do some different things here to try to get them, because we actually believe what's in the handbook and what they're scoring them on is good stuff, is important, and they're obviously not getting it and not being able to explain it, and we need to be much clearer with that particular aspect. So let's look at that. They did really badly on 13 and 15 rubrics. Let's have a look at what they did, and maybe we need to tweak our course so that we can build up that piece and spend a little bit longer on it, or be more specific with it, so that they really do understand it well enough to be able to write something about it. And that's
That's the ideal.
that's the ideal.
Yeah.
That's what we would want to happen.
Right.
But how you put that in words, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then when it
Or another way to think about it is, how do you prevent a program saying, oh, they did really poorly on 13 and 15? Well, I guess they better do better next time.
That's because they're stupid. Yeah. Well, that's because they weren't listening.
Right. Yeah.
That's because they weren't listening when I did it.
I'm taking a stab at modifying or changing our recommendation by combining 5 and 7 on slides 5 and 7 on slide 8.
Thank you.
I'm not able to hear anything in the room. Are you all talking? Sorry.
No,
Okay.
we're cogitating.
Okay. Sorry. I'm just
Waiting for you to do
hard to
it.
tell sometimes on Zoom.
I just wonder whether it's even the other slide 6, whether that should be part of the same. I mean, it's all. It doesn't matter whether it's separate or the same, but it's all part of the same process. This is in support of training and having the development of our staff and faculty and instructors. We need this from the program sponsor, the model sponsor. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, does it need to be a separate thing, or is this is a step towards supporting the work that we've just written in what is now in slide 5 or whatever? Did you move it to slide 5, Tori?
I haven't moved anything. I just added slide 8 and copied the content.
Oh, okay.
I copied the content from slides 5 and 7 onto slide 8 to kind of combine them, but I
Okay.
haven't
Okay.
moved anything.
Can I just take a minute to look at that?
Yeah.
So we're not talking for a minute, okay?
Thank you, Tori. Could you or I can do it, maybe make a statement on 5 and 7 that those are being combined in 8?
Mhm.
Awesome, Tori.
Yeah.
Feel free to make changes.
Where you wrote the what do you think about if we separate it as a separate sentence? Where it says in support of candidate performance, and that's actually the end of that sentence, and then this will
Here.
include,
Okay.
because otherwise it sounds a little bit like that's the main reason that we're doing this. I mean, it is a very important reason. I think that I probably was the one who originally suggested that, but it was, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sense? Yeah, yeah. I think that makes it more powerful. Both sentences are more powerful.
Should we say disproportionate pass rates among groups of candidates? Or just leave it at disproportionate pass rates?
Yeah, yeah. Just leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave it?
Just disproportionate. Yeah, that word.
Yep.
Pass rates.
Yeah, I think anybody reading this will know what we're talking about. Yeah.
I don't know if the calibration, like this calibration piece is accurate. There, to me, like there's something important about local scoring that we get on the same page about what what we're seeing in candidate performance, but I don't know that calibration is the right word for that since we're not actually calibrating to score. I don't
I agree. I think that's misleading in the sense that, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're scoring for Pearson, then you need to calibrate with the other scorers. But if you're doing it, calibration is too strong a word for what I think we're talking about happening is this deepening of understanding. It's much more. It's there's much more flexibility in that. The important piece is the conversation, not that they both end up doing the same thing. I think.
know. Should we say collaboration?
Yes, yeah, I like that. That's better.
How about this? I saw somebody changing this line, but some
Yeah,
options.
yeah, no, that's good. I like analysis rather than scoring.
Does that work better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we really saying then that we've changed this from actual scoring to really using it as a tool for program support and program development? Is that our
Candidate and
intention?
program. I think that's what it seems. Yeah. Is
I
that's
think-
is
I
that
think
the
so.
is that what we're trying to do?
Well, so Tori, if you don't mind me asking, because you came out early on saying that you were a proponent of the local scoring. How does this sit with you?
I still am a proponent of local scoring because I think that that gives some teeth to the analysis that's being done. But I understand that not all program, like I actually I think that if it were required for local scoring, I think programs could figure out how to make it work. And I know money doesn't grow on trees, especially we're facing a huge, budget crisis right now. But I do think it would require, I don't know. I want programs to actually do the work in a meaningful way. And that would be my one thought. So I think all of us teach in programs that do this work already. I'm thinking about programs that don't do that work. And is this gonna actually require it? So that's my only
So
thought.
does this move away from what I think the initial recommendation of local scoring is, in that programs actually score the
Their
final
candidates.
TPA?
Yeah, this is moving away from programs actually scoring, right, to just doing the analysis. The other trouble is like as I've been in conversations throughout the past few months about local scoring is like it's seen to solve all these other problems too. So I get it like it's what's the purpose of this? Like I've heard people talk about, oh, local scoring means that the cost for candidates is going to be reduced because a portion of at least a portion, if not all of their TPA will be scored locally, so candidates aren't going to have to pay now. And I've heard other people say, well, now we can give feedback to candidates through local scoring. And it's like, well, is that really what? So that, I mean, that's another piece of it, but I don't know. I'm okay with this. I'm comfortable with this. I think it's broad enough that like I'm kind of at the point I feel like whatever recommendations the work group makes just should be broad enough to do no harm so that programs can do what they need to do, but I also want to make sure that we're still maintaining uh, we're making changes to the NTPA that are benefiting candidates. And I don't know. I've lost my train of thought.
No, I know what I get what you're saying. I mean, should there be a sentence that recognizes the value of,
I think that will
but
be,
also the
that will be
implications?
next. I think after this, we get back to adding the why text or the purpose behind these recommendations, and that would be a great place for a sentence like that.
That in a perfect world, we would aim for, yeah, to have faculty and staff and lecturers and supervisors reimbursed and resourced to actually be trained and calibrated by the organizers.
Everyone do fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also just thinking to the work, like some of the work of Fresno State and doing the local scoring that's had benefits for candidates. The UC is starting to explore developing a new TPA that I think would include local scoring. So
They are.
those pieces are also on my mind.
The UCs are doing that.
They're exploring it. There's actually Ray Pachone from
Oh,
Scale
right. Yeah. Okay, right.
is kind of heading it up. So
No, it's one of Ray's little things, isn't it? Yeah, I did hear about this now. Now you mention it. But it hasn't got any traction yet though, has it?
I think so. There's Mark Wilson at UC Berkeley has been is the PI, and he's been meeting with Ray and Hewlett to possibly fund it. So I think there's some traction.
Wow. But he wrote EdTPA in the first place. Won't he just redo it the same?
I think he realizes there's more to candidate performance than what a TPA
If
captures.
he's actually learned something. Okay, good. I love Ray very much. Yeah, that will be interesting. It's something that I was talking about to a colleague the other day. Is this is now like what 15 years down the road since we first did an EdTPA, something like that. And our students are very different. The climate is very different. Their needs are very different. What the students they teach have different needs, and yet the core, virtually word for word, is the same today as it was 15 years ago. And the world has moved on, and it does need and it's interesting because I thought that what was said about this being an opportunity to like what was the word? The next generation of this. It might have been helpful to have had that said right at the beginning of this, if that was what the aim was to produce the next generation of TPAs. I don't think we had that as a written goal, but I think that's what Mary said was really, it might have helped us if we knew that it was that we were really doing and not tweaking what we have, which is what Ray is doing then, I suppose.
Yeah, some of the early ideas have been around a more developmentally appropriate and develop like
Yes.
capturing a candidate's developmental trajectory as well, so that maybe there's not to make it more burdensome on a candidate, and hopefully the way that it gets embedded would not be, but two or three kind of tasks where that actually map onto where a candidate is at developmentally in a program, so then they get feedback and the program gets feedback at multiple places rather than it just being this one thing that they do at the end. So
Yeah, because I mean it's sort of frustrating now because this is our last meetings. And I'm thinking that everything we're doing is either a good or not so good band-aid to something that is a little bit broken because of what you just said as well. The world has changed. We have different ways of thinking about our candidates, and whatever the system is it really appropriate for beginning for people who they're not even teachers yet, and we're asking them to write about some pretty complicated aspects of teaching.
Mhm.
Not just do it, but write about it and reflect on it. And
Mhm.
it's hard.
And it's a gatekeeper for their profession.
It is.
That's why it's so high stakes. And yeah, I agree with you.
I'm not to, I don't want to derail us, but back to the task at hand. Are you all okay with the note that I put on slide 8?
Yes, I noticed that. I was going to put a comment on there, but yeah, you did that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's going to kind of bother some people who had the initial thought of actually doing the scoring locally.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you made that note.
What would this have an impact on any other recommendations?
Mhm.
But I do think you could add at the end of that, there is still the opportunity to local score whenever anyone wants to. I mean, that's always been there, that an institution can score locally.
Mhm.
We're not taking that away, we're just not requiring it, in a sense. I just wonder whether we need to say that somewhere. Sorry, say that again.
I'm looking through the slides, wondering if our new slide has ramifications for other recommendations somewhere.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for adding that. Are you looking at particular slides?
Yeah, just thumbing through to see.
Okay.
I mean, it may. I'm looking at 30 right now. RDA Work Group recommends that programs provide an orientation for all educational partners working with teacher candidates to become
That's the
familiar
one.
with the adopted TBA model, including its tasks, rubrics, and evidence requirements.
Where's that?
That's 30.
30?
Way ahead of me.
It connects with that a little bit.
It does.
Already, but that's already a program standard, I think. Isn't there a standard about like the 10 hours of mentor teacher training that, well, I guess this is, I don't know.
That breeze crosses over to what we were doing, isn't it?
Do we need to do anything with slide 6 with that recommendation on slide 6?
Do you have something in mind?
No, I think it's okay as it is, but I just wanted to make sure we're good with it.
I was looking at Kathy's comment. I don't think it's covered on that particular one. So I don't think her,
So,
if in the orientation thing that they're suggesting they provide that information, but I don't think that's necessary.
no, I mean, that would help with 30. It's not quite the same. I'm just surprised that we need to say that programs should tell people about the NTPA. Which is what it is, an orientation to people so they know what NTPA is. I hope we do that.
So are we done as a group, do you think?
I think so, right?
I'm just wondering on slide 6, do we want to be more specific rather than it saying TPA model sponsor provide additional materials to programs to what did you say, Colin? I might have asked you who you had a specific phrase. You said, I don't know, I guess those people who are directly involved, because I don't think everybody in the programs really need that. I think
No,
it's just the people who are directly involved with working with the
with
candidates.
working with the candidates.
Right, because then that would, I think, help differentiate it more from that slide 30,
Well, but I don't,
you know?
well, I guess, so earlier you mentioned an assessment course that UT said, I have in our program, I have a colleague whose only direct link to their credential program is that they teach an assessment course. So they pop in, teach a quarter assessment course, and they're out. I guess they can make an argument that they're not really directly involved, but what they do is critical for the
For
work
the
that's
work.
happening in the
Yeah.
TPA.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I'm kind of torn.
Same as our LPP team, the language policies and practice team. I mean, they're not supporting them in any way whatsoever, except what they're teaching them
But
is absolutely essential.
That is actually directly related
Yeah,
to.
then I think they are directly related to
Yeah,
those
I would
people.
argue that they are.
Probably anyone who meets them is sort of directly.
Oh, no.
Actually, no.
Just to provide it to the
There's people
college,
like-
just run down the hallways. No, don't introduce me. I don't want.
Yeah. No, I really don't want to be. I don't want to be seen as someone who's doing that.
I'm okay either.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tori. Good work.
Yeah, well done, Tori.
Way to go, team.
Yes, going. Thank you.
Speaking of that TPA, just getting scores in for
You were right, saying that we did much better than your group did.
Oh, no. I'm not co-signing that. I'm not. I'm neutral.
No, it's all down to you. You're the one who's going to lead the debrief on it and defend it if people don't like it.
So relocate.
Yeah.
Do we need to pick somebody to share out, or are we sharing out? I have no.
No, we don't need to.
No, and if it is, it's you.
No, it's not. Nope. Nope. Mm.
All right. I can do it, I suppose, if they
Yep.
need someone. I'm not sure they do. I think they're just going to ask questions that, when people I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know why I'm even speaking.
I feel that way often. I don't know why I'm speaking.
You both